All right, what's going on? And welcome back. Idaho Sports Talk. We're Prater in the Ballgame. Appreciate you guys. 208-424-9300 on the Cloverdale Plumbing text line. Prater, we got a big-time guest right now that we are really excited for.
Let's dive in, Ballgame. Let's do it.
He was a former quarterback at Boise State. He was a former offensive coordinator at Boise State, helped the Broncos win the Fiesta Bowl in 2014. And since then, like a lot of coaches, it's been one merry-go-round after the other. We are joined right now by Mike Sanford Jr. Mike, Coach, really appreciate you coming on today, man. We can't wait to catch up with you. I haven't talked to you for a few years, so this is going to be fun. What's up, Coach?
How we doing, guys? Hey, I think I talked to you, Johnny, a little bit ago, probably a couple of years.
Yep.
But to be on in the presence of greatness, I'll tell you what. The Prater is the legend, of all legends. If there's a Mount Rushmore of Boise individuals, that'd certainly be the first one to go up. So this is an absolute honor. I was thinking back. First time I think I met Prater was in 1999. My dad and I were coming up for a spring practice, watching Bart Hendricks and run around the field. And I was just a high school senior, and I think I met you, Prater, there on the sideline at one point. So it's been a long journey, man. So it's great to be on with you guys.
Well, you said those nice things probably because you lost a bet. I do appreciate you saying that. I do think I remember that 99 thing. I probably grilled you about your father and probably asked you more questions about your father in those first couple of years. So I apologize for that. Today, we won't ask any questions about your dad.
I love it.
Oh, he is doing well. He's coaching high school football in Las Vegas, so he's doing very well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Love
man.
that.
And that's going to turn into a
67 years old, and he just loves it. It's awesome.
Old senior, won a lot of games in his career too, and
I love both the
juniors
Sanfords,
on his way too. We all do, yeah. Coach, so you signed up your last gig. You're coaching quarterbacks in OC in Boulder for Carl Durrell. Doesn't work out for Coach. You end up taking over on the interim level there in Boulder, trying to build that, trying to establish that culture there. And then obviously the college football world shakes up. Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, they go in that direction. You were in the room. You saw the Coach Prime presser. What's that like the last few days? How have you been able to process everything that's went on? You probably experienced something like it before because you've been at a lot of places. But, Coach, what was this one like?
This is unlike any other one. And maybe in the history of football. Just the let's just calling it a spade a spade. It's just, this was just such a, it's a challenging year, but for me personally, it was the absolute most rewarding year of my career, which is absolutely insane to say. When you go 1-11, you look back and you just think it's all for naught. But, it's been a whirlwind, like you guys said, for me, since I left Boise in 2014, and Notre Dame, been a head coach at 33 years old at Western Kentucky, and Utah State for a year, Minnesota for 2 years, and now Colorado for a year. So it's been a whirlwind for my family, and that's I think that's the thing that some people don't realize. You have to, at some point, you have to evaluate what really is the most important thing to me. And just about every head coach in America gets in front of a microphone and they always say the 3 F's: faith, family, and football, in that order. But we all know that that's not always the case in reality. And for me, I think just evaluating, even this week, there's been so much uncertainty. We didn't know what was going on. Frankly, there was about 2 days where Deion had been named the head coach, and all of us that are on the staff just were kind of sitting around in our office waiting for some answers about our future. And we got that, basically 48 hours after he had been named the head coach. We were basically all called in from 9 a.m. to about noon. And I think just about every full-time coach, quality control coach, and GA, we're all fired in 15-minute segments.
Wow.
And so, it's a crazy world. It's a cutthroat world. And, this is an amazing place. I loved my time here. These players were unbelievable, buying into everything that we were selling, gave it everything we had. But this transfer portal deal is unique. And if you're on the wrong side of history, and you can see what happened, just like happened this year with us, 23 players left. We only took about 3 transfer portal players in.
Wow.
And so a lot of other teams were benefiting from our players. We played against several top 10 teams that had some of the previous starters from Colorado on them. TCU had one, USC had two, and then I believe it was Oregon had one. And it's just such a unique time. And right now for us, it's just kind of catching our breath as a family and seeing what's best for us going forward.
Coach, and again, you've been on all sides of this thing, and I still remember being on the air in Boise when I found out, Brian Kelly somehow found Sanford at a vacation resort and all of a sudden jacked him from Boise and thinking, buzzkill, we lost a great OC and you're off to Notre Dame. And we wished you the best, obviously. And the importance that you keep coaching. I know Anne-Marie is probably tired of you already, dude, in the house, and it's only been a couple of days. What's the importance what's the importance that Mike Sanford Jr., puts the headset on as soon as possible? How long do you want to wait? If not, you want to get right back into the game, Coach?
First off, great point on that. Yesterday was my first full day, of not being employed. And, Anne-Marie and I spent the entire day together. But needless to say, day two, we came up with a great plan. We're going to alternate days that we spend the day together. And then the other day I'm going to go up and today I went up and got up in the slopes for about 3 hours, which is great about living here in Colorado. Was up there at Eldora for about 3 hours and then came down the hill, picked up my daughter from school and off we go. So, I think the thing that we have to figure out right now is, we don't want to just continue on the wild goose chase. I mean, if you think about it from the perspective of, I get let go after going 9-4 at University of Minnesota, which that doesn't seem very, commonsensical from the standpoint of success and all the stuff that, that we were able to accomplish there. But, I come here really excited to come to see you, it's another 1-year deal. And the thing that you start realizing is, if you're on the back end of maybe a head coach's time, very often it's a one and done situation. And so, I think for us, it's just going to a place that is super important, like a special place to us that we know we have roots. And that's, I think it's not easy to be, choosy, but I also have to think about my family. I do feel like I have home roots in the Bay Area and having coached it at Stanford for 5 years. My wife is from there. Her parents live there. Southern California, obviously there's not a lot of college football in Orange County anymore these days, but, and then you just think, obviously Boise is a place that we loved in our experience. And frankly, and I'm not lobbying for a job by any stretch. I promise you that. But frankly, probably one of my bigger regrets, and I'm not a type of guy that looks at the hindsight of everything, but is leaving my alma mater after 1 year. And it's funny, it's a daily reminder for me. All coaches essentially have, phones that are issued by the university they work at so they can make recruiting calls. And they're like, somebody's calling from Boulder, Colorado, and I actually have carried a personal phone, and I decided to take my 208 number as my personal phone just because that really has been in my lifetime. That's the second longest I've ever lived in one place. 5 years as a student athlete and then 1 year as a coordinator. And, it's interesting when that 1 year was so special, winning a Fiesta Bowl, winning the, Mountain West Championship. And what people forget about that year is that we were 2-2. We had an ugly game in Colorado Springs against Air Force. And, it felt like the world was coming to an end. And all we did is just put our heads down collectively as a staff and won games. And, that probably is my one regret is leaving my alma mater, a place that I love so much. And it really is a special place.
We're talking ball with Mike Sanford, former Boise State quarterback, former Boise State coach. If you look at his Twitter page, I love what it says, Coach. 2-time Rose Bowl coach, 3-time Fiesta Bowl coach, 3 times fired coach, and currently an elite husband, a GOAT father, and the only below average snowboarder in Colorado. So nicely done, Mike Sanford. I do appreciate that. It's funny. We're talking to RD today as well, Ryan Dinwiddie, and obviously Ryan, and we're doing a series of stuff with him as well. And I went back and looked at that 2003 Fort Worth Bowl, and you guys were like glued together on the sidelines. And I kept thinking, Sanford. You were so young, and your career was in front of you. I want to ask you just this kind of broad, esoteric, weird question of how have you changed as a coach, as a quarterback, as a man since you left Boise State as a player?
Wow, a lot. It's funny. The one constant, other than obviously my mom and dad, but then Anne Marie. We met while I was a redshirt freshman at Boise State. In the area, I met when my dad was coaching at Stanford, and I was visiting for spring break, and found the pastor's daughter, and I was like, I like that gal. She liked the only 6'4" guy in the entire church. So it worked out. She moved to Boise, last couple of years, but really she and I've been on an incredible journey. We've been married 18 years now. We got married the week after I barely graduated, barely passed my geology class in my 5th year. So,
nice.
Needless to say, there was a lot of growth that needed to happen, with a lot of areas. But, I think the thing that probably throughout the course of all this, the one thing that I've taken, and it's funny, you read my Twitter bio, is, I've really just come to the grips with, I'm just going to be myself. And this entire profession and my career has taken me all over the country. And it's really easy to kind of take on the persona of all that. But one thing that I did feel, particularly at Western Kentucky, is, I wasn't a Southerner. I wasn't from Bowling Green, Kentucky, that's for sure. And I felt that in my press conference. And, I think I felt that for 2 years, not, trying to make sure that I'm not this Yankee or this Orange County kid, or this California kid coming in using big words that you learned at Notre Dame, Stanford, and Yale. But I think that's the biggest thing I've learned is, man, I'm just going to be myself. I'm goofy. I enjoy the relationships with players. I'm not going to hide from that. And frankly, the biggest thing I learned from this year, and even in this transition from what we were doing in the last 8 weeks of the season to what's going on now, with the new staff coming in, is I'm going to make a pledge that I'm never going to be a part of anything, whether I'm a GA, a tight end coach, an offense coordinator, a head coach, where the most important thing is in relationships with the players. And the most important thing isn't just being yourself. Because I think that's why I got into this profession. So I think that's, whether that's deep or not, I think that a lot of coaches struggle with that, particularly when you're a young head coach and you get thrust into the spotlight. You almost kind of feel like you have to be, you have to act like somebody you're not, or, I have to act like Brian Kelly because he was the last head coach I worked for. I'm just going to be myself. And that's, I want to work at places where that is celebrated.
I love that. And that should be more celebrated regardless of what you do. Nicely done, Coach. You talked about Boise State leaving after 14, going to Notre Dame. You can't regret going to Notre Dame. It helped launch your career, or certainly gave your career this beautiful trajectory. But since you brought that up with Boise State, we got to bring up the big elephant in the room. I don't know if you ever you're going to coach again. There's no doubt about that. I don't know if you have an interest in being a head coach or a coordinator or a quarterback coach. Boise State has an opening. They have an offensive coordinator position opening. You used to play with Andy Avalos.
What happened?
I'm assuming you like Andy Avalos. So I guess I'm going to be blunt here, dude.
Yeah.
What's that status? Any connections? Any conversations? Is there any possibility that Mike Sanford might be involved in the Boise State quarterback or offensive coordinator quarterback search?
Geez, that feels like there's drum roll please, like Clark W. Griswold.
I know,
right?
Totally,
man.
dude.
Built it up, man. God dog, man. I feel like I'm gonna put the connectors together and the lights are gonna turn off after. I don't know after that one. But, what I would tell you on that one is, I haven't had any contact with Andy. I haven't reached out to him. He hasn't reached out to me. So, that's the other thing I've learned in this whole deal is, even when you're dealing with, talking with people that either or don't know in the media, just be honest, right?
Yes.
And so there have been no contact. Obviously, Andy and I, we came in together, exact same recruiting class in I believe it was it was 2000. And then I think it was pretty unbelievable. They did a story on who survived all the way till the 2004 season. And there were only like 7 of us, Gabe Franklin, myself, Andy, they could go on, but, I have a lot of respect for Andy. He and I coached together. He was the linebacker coach, while I was at Boise as the coordinator. And it was really fun. One thing that I really enjoyed that Coach Pete and Coach Hars both did is, during spring ball, we would have staggered meetings. Offense would go and the defense would go. And there'd be one day that we would use as professional development to go sit in somebody else's room. It was funny. I sat in on a linebacker's room as a coordinator. And I was just blown away by how good of a position Coach Anthony was, to be real candid. Super detailed, great sense of humor, had the guys on the edge of their seats. And then he also sat in my room, and he probably was shocked by, some of my off kilter humor and stuff along those lines. But I think there's a lot of mutual respect between the two of us. I watched very closely as much as I can. You know, a lot of times there's games where I can catch, you know, what's going on in the blue because of, you know, unorthodox game times and whatnot. But I'm really proud of, you know, of Andy's job that he did this year. I think it was a masterful job in making some obviously some tough decisions. Kind of helps out when you got a guy named Dirk Cutter just hanging around right there. But he made that move, you know, and that's the hardest thing as a head coach is a lot of times it's just making those types of moves and doing them at the right time and ultimately being the conference coach of the year, you know. So, you know, in terms of interest, I mean, obviously that'd be something that me and my family would have to talk about. And to be honest, we haven't really spoken much about that with regards to, you know, something that hasn't even really come to fruition. So, but we do love Boise. I love that. I love the program. I love everything about it. And obviously we'll just kind of see what happens on the stretch.
Where do you find most joy when you wake up in the morning? Would you, if you had a preference, would you rather be a head coach or do you like being a coordinator, play caller, quarterback coach and developing talent directly?
You know, my biggest thing, I love just the relationships. And I think my first time being a head coach, I felt like I almost missed you know, having a position room of somewhere between 4 and 15 guys. And I really craved that. So after the Western Kentucky time, I really wanted to go back to being a position coach and a coordinator. But then for whatever reason, this CU experience this year, and I've never been able to get so close to so many people in such a short period of time. It was almost incredible, to be quite honest. So I think it almost reinvigorated my desire to be a head coach in due time. I'm not in any position right now, obviously, to say that I'm going to be the head coach at this place or that place. But, you know, I think you can have a tremendous impact in either space. And just different times in my career, I've felt different ways. And, you know, I'd say just today being Thursday, I probably prefer being a fairly well-compensated, carpool school driver because that's what I am right now. So, you know, tell you what, there's nobody who can pick up kids like I can.
I love it, man. Mike Sanford Jr., former Boise State quarterback, offensive coordinator, with us here on Idaho Sports Talk right now. I mean, Coach, the quarterback developmental process in this era. We have personal quarterback coaches, 7-on-7, all these elements of coaching a quarterback. Boise State's new OC is also probably going to have to be a quarterback coach too, considering the budget and whatnot. And I look at you in whether it's Grant Hedrick or Deshaun Kaiser or Mike White, who's a starting quarterback in the NFL, Jordan Love, a first-round draft pick. You were in the same rooms as Andrew Luck there at Stanford. You have a ton of experience at that position. What do you think are the most important elements of it? Boise State, I mean, the big star on campus right now, Coach, it's Talon Green, the freshman sensation, freshman player of the year in the Mountain West. And me and Prater talk all the time. Boise State needs to find someone to come in here and help develop Talon Green like Dirk Cutter has. What are those elements that are key today in college football?
Well, continuity. And that's so hard to find. You know, I mean, I even think about my experience here. You know, I felt like we had an unbelievable true freshman quarterback in Owen McCown. And then, you know, obviously what happened. And, you know, staff is fired and he's in the portal before Deion Sanders is even announced.
Wow.
You know, and so I think the continuity of both the position and the coach. And I know that nobody wants that when your teams, especially in Boise, I always joke that, you know, unless you win 77-0 and you ran the Statue of Liberty and six trick plays hit, that everybody in the fan base was disgusted with the performance. But the reality of it is continuity is what ultimately led to Boise State's success. You know, I even think about just the offensive system stayed in place from 1997 until really, I think last year. The same terminology. Like I came back and coordinated in essentially the same terminology that I learned in 2000 from Mark Helfrich as my quarterback coach and Dirk Cutter as my head coach. You know, I think continuity is so important. It's so hard to be able to do that in the world that we live in where everybody wants success now. And they don't just want success in a season. They want it in week 2. They want it in week 5. They want it in week 7. And if you don't get that, then the masses get really, really loud. And I think it takes, obviously, if you feel like there's positive growth, which clearly there is at Boise, and with Talon and with what, you know, his development, But if you feel like there's positive growth as an AD, as a fan, like just give the benefit of the doubt. You know, there's going to be hard times. There's going to be hard games. You know, these are young men, and they're dealing with a lot of stuff right now. They're comparing their NIL money to other conferences and other schools, and you know, and it's at the end of the day, we're all doing our best, obviously. But the one thing that I've really struggled with, because I love that position, I've coached, I think it's now 9 guys that are either currently in the NFL or were drafted in the NFL, is I had the opportunity to either recruit them or coach them as redshirt freshmen and then see their development. You know, Andrew Luck, Jordan Love, I had a chance to coach him last year. You know, Grant, obviously I was there just for 1 year.
Yeah.
But just that, I think that continuity piece is so incredibly important. And I think there's no other position that is more important in college football than at the quarterback position.
Coach, we could do this all day. We're going to keep you around, keep your number. Hopefully we can talk in a few weeks or something, but we'll let you get back to the family in that carpool spot, calling your name. Coach, this has been awesome. It's good to catch up with you, and we'll be in touch, Coach Sanford. Thanks for giving us 25 minutes today.
Oh, shoot, I know it's not long. My wife's going to be yelling at me. I got to get I think dinner's on the table right now. But
and our producer's yelling at us too, so we're both in trouble.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. You know, there's I already heard the Zamzows ads. You know, feel like I was back in Boise. So
nice.
Although, last thing, a traffic report in Boise, boy, have times changed.
It's a little peskier,
they still
Coach.
only said the connector's busy. You know, at the end of the day, that's really where the traffic is. So, but hey, I appreciate you guys having me on, and anything I can ever do in the future, I'd love to jump on again.
Awesome. We'll be in touch. Well done. That's Coach Mike Sanford, and we're going to come back quickly. 208-424-9300. If you want to call, we'll put you through. How would you feel about Mike Sanford being in the mix for Boise State's offensive coordinator and quarterback search? Would you want him to come back? Let's get those thoughts. You can text in as well. Prater the Ballgame.
From the Beacon Plumbing Traffic Studio.